One reaction with Levy. Welcome to a new podcast I'm doing, right? We're bringing back One Reaction podcast. We're bringing it back. And we got a special guest today in my home upstairs watching the Yankee game. His name is Matt Nichols. How you doing, Matt?
Doing well. You can watch your Yankee game, but I actually turned the Mets on over here as we're in the eighth inning looking to actually produce and maybe win a baseball game. But doing well.
So we got the Yankees downstairs. Yankees lead 2-1, bottom of the seventh. Just a largely frustrating game as the bullpen is now in Scott Efros. And the Mets 1-1, both starting pitchers into the eighth, correct?
They just took out Suarez, the Phillies did. So hopefully the Mets can get after it right now. But I don't know.
So nonetheless, two very interesting games. We'll keep you updated if anything happens. Obviously, you guys will be hearing this recording after these games, so won't focus too much on that. So, Matt, wanted to dive in here because we've got some breaking news coming out before we get into our baseball stuff, all the stuff that was planned, and that's the beauty of sports media. Zack Wilson, you're a big Jet fan. I'm a big Giant fan, but Zack Wilson tonight, non-contact knee injury. We're not going to speculate on the severity of the injury. So, Matt, I'm going to pose this to you. As a New York Jet fan, what do you want to do if Zack Wilson is out for an extended period of time, whether it's 8 weeks, whether it's 1 year?
So, ultimately it never looks good. You never want your players hurt, especially in, preseason week one. It's never ideal. But the nature of the Jets now with Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh is whoever their group of guys is, they're going to go after it. And I personally think that their number one fit right now is Jimmy Garoppolo.
That's interesting. So talking about Jimmy Garoppolo, why do you want him on your team? What does he offer?
I think that he brings in the veteran leadership and the ability to win football games because obviously people have questioned his ability and, a lot of different things going around his name. But in the end, he has learned under the greatest quarterback of all time, and that is Tom Brady. And he went on to San Francisco and he showed he could win football games. When it mattered, he was there. And well, like I said, he's not the greatest, but you know what? It is an option. And what's in the quarterback room right now is not Jimmy Garoppolo.
So that's interesting because this guy, right, he doesn't have the best stats, but he did get to an NFC championship and was one of his defensive players dropping an interception away from going back to the Super Bowl. He went to the Super Bowl in 2019. Yes, he could be largely carried by Kyle Shanahan in that defense and that run game. We get that in a stacked roster. But nonetheless, this dude has been to a Super Bowl.
Yes. That's something that Zack Wilson has not been to. And neither is Mike White, and we can go into plenty of other people on the Jets roster. But the reality of it is the Jets roster would like to get to a Super Bowl, and they feel that they have the pieces developing to do that.
And it's interesting because you look at the 49ers and people kind of called them just like, what are you guys doing? Questioning their moves. But now this is a beautiful scenario for San Francisco, right? And John Lynch, he's licking his chops. He can rip off the New York Jets.
Yeah.
Just give me everything you got. I mean, he could probably get a mid to high first round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo at this point. I think it would be a third or fourth. But nonetheless, this would work out very well for San Francisco if this is actually a real injury.
Absolutely. I think it would really end up coming down to a desperation move for the Jets. I think that they're going to end up needing a quarterback. And they're going to want a quarterback who they trust. I mean, Robert Saleh and Jimmy have history in San Francisco, which definitely helps. Obviously, on different sides of the ball when they were there together. But at the same time, they know each other. Jimmy knows how Saleh operates. And, there's a lot of buzz about the New York Jets. They got a lot of guys that came in that want to win and know how to win. And you got to get those young guys developed as quick as possible because the NFL does not wait for anybody. That is the sad reality. We can talk about it in all sports, but it's especially evident in the NFL. When we talk about it, Zack Wilson, I mean, if this injury ends up being severe, like we're possibly talking about, people could really start to question whether or not he's ever going to be a successful quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, there's so many layers to this injury because you had a guy in Zack Wilson that was supposed to have his breakout year this year. In year two, he had a pretty good camp. And yes, he did throw an interception before the injury tonight. But I'll pose this, right, as a Jet fan. You have Zack Wilson in year two, or Jimmy Garoppolo in the first year, but back with Robert Saleh. And let's put this out there. Mike, it's either Mike or Matt. What's
Mike White?
No, the coordinator.
Oh, Mike LaFleur?
Mike LaFleur. Okay.
Yeah.
Matt LaFleur is the Green Bay head coach. I got the names confused. But Mike LaFleur, right? Mike LaFleur is the offensive coordinator for the New York Jets. Same system as Kyle Shanahan. So Jimmy G would fit right in. It would be about the chemistry with the receivers, right? What would you rather have, or what would be a better season for the New York Jets? Zack Wilson healthy year 2, or Jimmy Garoppolo coming in on August 15th, 2 weeks before the season, or 3 weeks?
So it's a great question that you asked, because with a Jimmy Garoppolo, you know what you're going to get. Nothing's going to surprise you. He knows what he's getting himself into, and LaFleur understands what he's working with. But the relationship that LaFleur and Zack Wilson were beginning to create was something special. I mean, I've watched countless videos, all these different things about their relationship and how he was beginning to mesh into the offense and really starting to understand it. And he was pumped up to get in there this year. I mean, hopefully, we're not, again, not speculating. We would like to hope he can get back in the game very soon. But you know what? I personally would like to say Zack Wilson. I think he brings an extremely higher level of football when he begins to develop more and more, and he's going to end up winning football games more than a Jimmy Garoppolo. I just don't think he's electric enough.
I'll disagree with you. I think if Jimmy Garoppolo came in on August 15th and had 3 weeks to prepare, I think he would have a better year, and I think the Jets would have a better record. And I think it's for a couple of reasons. Number 1, turnovers. Number 2, experience in the offense, especially. If it was a different offense, I would be totally agreeing with you, Matt.
Yeah.
But this is the same offense. There's no difference in the offense except the receivers. And I think with 3 weeks, yeah, he could have trouble in the first couple of weeks. But after that, I think the Jets would kind of benefit from his experience. They'd focus on the run game more with Breece Hall. Good offensive line. Let's not forget that. The concern with this Jets team is not the pieces, right? It's not. They've got a pretty good offensive line, ranked 11th last year. They've got some weapons, and you got Breece Hall coming in, the star running back from Iowa State. It would not be about the offense. It would be about the defense. So, and I think that would be in year 2, right? I'm saying year 2 presently. Maybe in the future I'd go with Zack Wilson, but in the present, I think I'd go with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes sense. But, the main thing with all of this, whether we want to talk about a possible Jimmy Garoppolo or we want to go into something like the defense, there are numerous question marks for the New York Jets because they have a plan, but they need to execute. You can say all that you'd like, and your players can say that or show all they can do, but in the end, they need to go out on the field and win football games, and not just the games that they're supposed to win. They need to start winning some games they're not supposed to win. They need to be able to go into Foxborough and play the Patriots close. I know the Patriots aren't the regular Patriots that we're used to. I mean, although Mac Jones is very good and that team is always good, they're always coached well, but the Jets need to start stepping it up. And that's just really what it comes down to.
No, you're completely right. And it just stinks for Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas, who are coming in this year just piling talent on talent. And now the questions have become with the Mekhi Becton injury, and now whatever happens with the Zack Wilson injury. And the questions are turning. One final thing on the Jets, and we'll move on. This Mekhi Becton thing, I have a big issue with this. I really do, with all these sports media guys, Joe Beningo saying this on Thursday at the Fan, that the Jets somehow should have drafted an offensive lineman this year. This team had so many holes on the roster, right? And you could disagree with me, Matt, but in my opinion, you had a team that had a lot of holes. And Mekhi Becton, no matter what the injury was, you were counting on him to be a right tackle this year, right? And you also, without him last year, you had the 11th best offensive line in football. So why would you draft an offensive lineman when that's kind of already a position of strength for you guys? That didn't make any sense to me, why everyone was saying that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, personally, I think the Jets are notorious for drafting well, and I thought this draft was no different. They needed playmakers, and they got playmakers. And the most important thing is they got the guys that they wanted and they thought fit the organization best. And you want to talk about a Sauce Gardner, want to talk about Garrett Wilson. These guys are playmakers. They were the best available at their pick. Some of them obviously fell into their lap. Can never complain with that. But I do not think that offensive line was something that needed to be stressed in the first round, especially because there were some guys there that generational talents. You cannot pass on those type of guys. And they're already starting to show it within camp, and from everything I'm hearing, these guys are special.
Yeah, you got Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and we'll end it on there. It's just a bad feeling for Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas. It felt like there were some expectations coming in this year. They're starting to build something, and all of a sudden your quarterback goes down. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he's okay. But we just went into that scenario. Maybe we just scratch that out, and Zack Wilson's okay in week 1. But we'll see what's going on. We'll keep you updated. Regardless, with Jimmy G news, I'm sure you guys will hear it from Adam Schefter or something like that. But let's move on to the main topic of discussion today. We wanted to talk about the New York Mets and the New York Yankees. Obviously, you're a Met fan. You're watching the Mets upstairs. I got the Yankees on downstairs. I'm a big Yankee fan, but I wanted to dive into this Mets because this team, I'm telling you, I said this, I think, a couple days to you, Matt. I said this team's got a real shot. And now it's starting to look like, maybe I said it a week ago, now it's starting to look like they could be the favorite, right? You got those two pitchers, DeGrom and Scherzer. You got Edwin Diaz, the stupid trumpets playing everywhere with Narco. Everyone's posting social media videos. You got a deep lineup. This team is scary good, and no one wants to face them right now. They are playing the hottest stretch of their season. They've been consistent all year, kind of moving around, winning 2/3 of their games, and now they've all of a sudden taken off. I think they've won 15 of their last 17 or 17 of their past 19. It's been fun to watch, and I wanted to pose this question to you, Matt. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 winning the World Series, 1 you don't think they're going to win the World Series, what is your number at right now, and what was it about 2 weeks ago?
So that's a really tough one. I'm big on jinxing my team, and you say all this stuff, I can get as excited
as
I
want.
Jinxes. I need to see it to believe it. And this man that is hitting right now with a runner on second in the bottom of the 9th, Francisco Lindor, it all revolves around him. And right now, it is a 10. This team is World Series or bust.
Bang.
And I'm coming out
Matt
and saying
Nichols
it 2 weeks ago.
As a Met fan, 10. Thinks the Mets are going to win the World Series.
And listen, this is non-biased. I love my team when they suck and when they show glimpses, but there's something different about this team. The way Buck Showalter is able to actually get these guys to want to win games, want to play together, and what the amount of talent that he's been able to work with, from hidden gems to underrated signings, I think it's extraordinary. And this team is a for sure 10.
10. You heard it here. And look, it's hard to disagree with you right now. But I think you've hit on something that I wanted to bring up to you, because we've talked about this a lot. This team revolves around really the bullpen, getting from probably the 6th inning to the 8th inning, maybe to the 7th, which is not a big window, and we'll go to the bullpen in just a second. But it really revolves around Francisco Lindor. This guy got the swagger. He's the glue. He got the big contract. This guy is really the glue of your team besides Pete Alonso in the lineup. And when he's playing well, this Mets team plays very well. And he wasn't playing well. There was a lot of question marks about, you throw it 3-4 weeks ago before that Yankee series, there was a lot of question marks around this guy. And all of a sudden, he's turned it around. And it's been fun to watch. And these New York Mets now have continued to win. And with this team, and I think the most interesting thing is, because I've watched this team when they played the Yankees and we went to the game obviously together, I didn't think this lineup was that deep. And they've gotten even deeper and deeper. And then with this trade deadline addition, what has this team meant in terms of this Vogelbach rough addition? I think it's been unbelievable for the Mets.
So I think it gives them an extraordinary amount of flexibility and the ability to, in any given situation, have a guy that they know is going to get it done. And these guys have shown that they can produce, but not at a level where it's unsustainable. They have very, very quality at-bats. They know what they need to do, and they're professionals. These guys, they've been through it. These are not guys who have a lot of question marks. Yeah, some of them have had down years. Darren Ruff, he cannot necessarily hit righties as well, but everybody knows their role on this team. And that is the reason they've been so successful. It's because there is a complete buy-in in Queens, and they want to win.
And I think it's interesting because you said Darren Ruff doesn't hit righties. Who cares?
Exactly.
Who cares? He doesn't need it. You got Vogel back for a reason, right?
Sure. He's at the plate right now, first and third, bottom of the ninth right now. We need him. But you know what? He doesn't come through. Next guy picks him up. That is the mentality of this team the whole year. And that is the reason a guy like Jeff McNeil, who is our 7-hitter, was an all-star this year. Because guys produce wherever they are. Does not matter.
They produce. They make their players put on milkshake, brings all the boys to the yard, as Vogelback did a couple days ago.
They're having fun.
They're just having fun. It is really cool to see. And now I'll transition to the concern. If you had any concern for this Mets team, you mentioned there are 10 right now. What is your concern?
So my genuine concern is that they are playing a level of unsustainable baseball. And what I mean by that is nothing to do with them. I have a feeling that New York Mets fans, not me necessarily, but I know a lot of New York Mets fans will begin to click the panic button, just as many Yankee fans are doing right now. As soon as something goes wrong, let's say they lose this series to Philadelphia, people will say, count them out. They're done. Absolutely terrible. And you know what? That's just the culture of Met fans. Met fans will be as high up when they're good as that low down when they're bad. But I mean, the real concern just revolves around, can they continue to play this level of baseball? And can they continue to work around some of the question marks that have come around, like the bullpen, as I'm sure we'll begin to talk about?
Yeah, I thought you would jump at the bullpen. I literally teed it up, and you just say, you know what? They just gotta just unsustainable baseball. This bullpen, if Adam Ottavino, who is a former New York Yankee, is pitching the 8th inning for your team, and you got a couple guys that get it on the injury reserve. You got Drew Peterson maybe coming out of the pen. Maybe you can move a Taijuan Walker or Carlos Carrasco into the pen. But there's concern, right? There has to be.
Absolutely. I just really think right now they're at a level where there's too much of a reliance on starting pitching. And I mean, we've seen it in the series against the Braves when Taijuan Walker did not have necessarily his best stuff. They clicked the panic button. That game was over as soon as he gave out 4 runs in the first. They had no one to turn to. They're going to guys who can eat up innings like Trevor Williams, and they're done. I mean, granted, they showed some life and they were able to almost come back into that game. But the problem is that there are not enough guys who can shut the door when it matters. Yes, we have Edwin Diaz. Is he going to be still striking out 50% of batters by the end of the year? Probably not. Would I like him to? Sure. But you know what? We need to start seeing guys produce. And if that means having to move a Tyler McGill to the bullpen, by all means. But I just don't know if it's enough in there.
That's interesting because this team, there is concern, but how many times are you going to really be faced with that situation that happened to Atlanta? Are you really going to be faced with that situation a lot in the playoffs besides maybe 1 or 2 games a series?
So the only reason I bring that up to make the point is more so the playoffs. Because in the playoffs, yes, the bullpen is not as important. But if a situation like that arises, you need to know that you can have guys to keep you in baseball games when there's not going to be many games. You can't just throw a game away, in game 4 of the NLCS. So yes, it would be phenomenal to know you're going to get 7 out of DeGrom and 8 out of Scherzer. But what if you don't? That's the real question. And the real concern is there is not a list of guys that are going to be able to bring their best up every day they step on the mound. Aside maybe one, and then we could talk about a Drew Smith, a Seth Lugo, and an Adam Ottavino, who have been quite iffy this year. They've had some high highs and they've had some low lows.
That's interesting. And the funny thing is, when I bring up the concern, you jumped right to the bullpen, but you still haven't brought up the injury factor of Jacob deGrom. I mean, if he gets hurt, your team, do you believe, I'll pose this question. If Jacob deGrom is not healthy in the playoffs, does your New York Met team have a chance to get to the World Series?
I really do. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a Met fan. I should have said that earlier. This is not, like I said, non-bias. But I do think that this team has the pieces and the will to win with the depth that they could do it. They showed they could be a first-place team without Jacob deGrom. And yes, deGrom has been magnificent since he's come back. I'm actually going to watch him pitch tomorrow. Very excited about that. But I really do think that they have the star power to contend.
Look, I can't disagree with you right now. They weathered the storm earlier this year without Scherzer and without DeGrom, and now they got them both back.
Yeah.
And it feels like this team is hitting their peak at the right time. They're getting healthy at the right time, knock on wood. And I think I have to agree with you. I think they're better than the Dodgers. And you got the Tatis news coming in today with the 80-game suspension, which I'm sure we'll get into later.
Horrible.
But this is it's setting up. It's setting up the New York Mets. The New York Mets. It's crazy. And I hate the hype. But nonetheless, I do have a lot of respect for your team and just so proud of the way these New York baseball teams have played. Okay, let's move on. We'll go quick into the Yankees because I know it's not your favorite topic of conversation talking about the Yankees, but because they've gone through this struggle. So as a Yankee fan, is there anything you can tell me from a baseball perspective? Because I know you play the game. Forgot to mention that earlier. Plays at Gettysburg College. Is there anything that you would tell me as a Yankee fan to calm me down? Just calm me down a little bit.
Yes, very quickly. It is August. This is a great time to be playing the type of baseball that the Yankees are playing, and for guys like Stanton to be going down. You would never want that. You wish they could just win 120 games, but you know what? That's not it. That's just not what's going to happen. It's still early. Clay Holmes was allowed to come down to real life a little bit, just as I'm sure a guy like Edwin Diaz will. But the only thing I'll say is breathe. The Yankees are good. They are still going to end with there you go. Come on. They're still going to end with over 100 wins. They're going to lead the division, and they're going to be fine because as long as they're playing their best baseball in October, no one's even going to remember this happened.
I think I agree with you. And I'll go into more of that. We have another special podcast coming up more focused on the Yankees, so we won't go into that. But I think for Yankee fans, I think they'll be fine. And does fine mean beating the Astros and going to the World Series or winning a World Series? That's another question for another day, but I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be playing better baseball down the stretch.
I'd like to ask you a question. I would like to know what you think the Yankee ceiling is.
Ceiling to me is you have Clay Holmes and Aroldis Chapman pitch and Jonathan Loáisiga in this bullpen playing shutdown baseball. You have Garrett Cole, Luis Severino, Frankie Montas, and then Nestor Cortez pitching really well. And this lineup with a lot of hitters, with Donaldson being hot, with Judge, with Stanton, with Rizzo, with Torres seeing the ball and hitting the ball, spraying it across the field. This team's ceiling to me is a World Series champion. I think it is. Do you disagree?
I don't disagree at all. I think they can certainly make it to the promised land. I think they have all the pieces, they have all the star power, and a lot of guys know what it takes. So I do think that they need to make sure that they're healthy, and they need to obviously begin to play better baseball, but I think there's no reason why they're right there. There's just not. This team ultimately needs to win at some point.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, quick prediction before we move on to some more topics. Okay. Yankees prediction for what happens in October, and then Mets. It's October 12th, August 12th. Give me the prediction. What happens? Mets are where? Yankees are where by the end of November? Give it to me.
I'm just gonna say it. It'll be a Subway Series.
Subway Series World Series.
Give it to me. Who says no?
Who wins? Give me a winner.
The Mets are winning that.
Thank you. You got to pick your team. That's how you do it. You have to pick your team. You said 10, and I think you might be right. I think that could definitely be the World Series. So, Yankees just blew another game. Whatever. Let's move on to what we were discussing earlier, and that is a little personal anecdote of mine. Baseball this summer, working at the Fan, grateful for the experience. I think I got more into baseball than I've ever have. And I wanted to pose this question to you, Matt, as someone who is very passionate about the sport of baseball, played it your whole life, big fan. How do you think you can connect? Because I was exposed to it all summer, and I think it's a fascinating sport, right? And as just a sport fan with football and basketball jumping up, right? and this baseball just kind of descending right now. How can you re-energize the sport for fans, for younger audiences like us?
So, there's two real components, and the first is the obvious one, and that is social media, which I think has really become important. I really think it's become a fact. Really begin to get more people into the sport and mainstream and getting on platforms out of it. And it's something that we see in all different sports is really focusing on your star players, your key players. Let's take Aaron Judge, for instance. We've talked about him plenty, and we will continue to do so. Aaron Judge needs to have a signature cleat. He needs to have, you know, his own logo, something. The fact that the arguably the best baseball player, in our current state, is not well known enough is a problem to me. And listen, we've gotten there. We've gotten our Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, Francisco Lindor, to name a few, who've gotten their signature cleat. They've gotten more recognition, merchandise, you name it. But what you notice within, let's say, basketball, LeBron, Kobe, KD, Kyrie, these are all very well-known lines, and they have plenty of different branches off of brands like Nike or Curry with Under Armour. So I really just think that the game needs to be stepped up.
That's an interesting point, and you can use social media all you want, but does it really generate the interest? Because how do you get a young fan who is kind of just he's so into a basketball game that's on his phone, he can just watch these quick second highlights, or football where he's got fantasy football, he's got the betting aspect now, which is taken off in the past couple of years. So what is the baseball differentiator?
I think it's just you gotta really make sure that the characters and the different people that should be looked up to are focused on, and they become widespread and well known. A guy like Francisco Lindor, obviously within New York, is well known, but he's well known for the type of presence that he brings, which ultimately affects the locker room and affects the Mets. But when you walk into Citi Field, there's a lot of people with number 12 on their back. And it's not because he hits 240. It's because of the type of person that he is and what he brings to the game. And people see that and they want to be like him because it's fun. He makes baseball fun. He adds some flair. And they don't really want to see just a black and white guy, just someone who just goes out there and plays, because that's not fun. And that is the only way the youth will truly be, inclined to want to watch and ultimately want to keep playing.
It's a good point. And now let's just transition gears a bit, because obviously you play. I want to talk a little about your background. You playing on Gettysburg now. What are you looking forward to this season? Because I know you've been training hard all summer long, and really the past couple of years.
I'm just looking forward to just going to school and being able to play, because, I was lucky enough to have some great friends that are on my team. And we actually have a new coach coming in this year that'll bring in a whole new staff. And I think it's just a change of scenery, and I'm really excited for it. Obviously, I've been playing baseball as long as I can remember, but I think that I've never had, such successful at bats and just been feeling as confident at the plate. So I think it's just being able to show what I can do at the highest level that I'm at right now. It makes me pumped up.
Quick hitters. Dan Campbell in Hard Knocks. Is he the coach you'd want?
He is. I actually just finished the first episode, and he gets me fired up. I mean, he's a guy who wants it. He's a guy who wants everything out of his players. And the most important thing to me is that he's done it himself. He knows what it takes. He played in the NFL. I think that is so important. And I think that the fact that his entire staff is in very similar situations to him, and his staff has won a Super Bowl, a couple of them, I think that is so important. So I think that a really big point is the fact that our new head coach was a Gettysburg baseball player, which I think is extraordinary. Mm-hmm. And he understands what it takes. He knows what we went through last year and how we've been prepared. And he wants to change the culture, which I think is amazing.
Fernando Tatis, what do you think happens? Padres and just the outlook for their future.
So, obviously he's going to go out on a limb and say that he didn't know he was taking it.
Oh, every player does that, right?
Come on now.
Every single time. It's the
Come on now.
funniest thing in the world. Oh, it was just accidental. DeAndre Hopkins is the same thing.
Horrible. So, to me, it really did. It hurt me. Fernando's very fun to watch. I was excited for him to get back. He was on pace. He was looking good. But you know what? I really do think this hurts the game of baseball because he was one of the faces that was coming back. He adds that flair like Lindor. He's a new young talent, and everybody was excited to have him back. And I think it kills the Padres, especially. I think the Dodgers should not worry about them anymore. I really don't.
Field the dreams. What? Any thoughts?
I honestly, actually, the one thing is that they're redoing the whole facility.
I heard.
So next year there's going to be no game, which that makes it much more bigger scale per se. But I think last year was great, and you really can't do it any better than that. Can't script it any better. So hopefully I'm proved wrong, and we see some extraordinary games in the following years. Obviously not next year, but I think it's a fun little thing, and it's adding some touches to the baseball that's making it fun. I mean, last night's game sucked, but I digress.
Oh, I was waiting for it because you kind of just dodged it, just dodging because you want to promote baseball. Last night stunk.
Horrible.
Stunk because you know why? Because those two teams are terrible. And that was a bad matchup for the MLB. You could see this from a mile away that those two teams were bad. I don't care that they're from the Midwest. This is a Fox broadcasted game. You have a chance in the middle of the summer on a Thursday night to really grab some audience with just some preseason football. So people are going to be on their TV screens and they're going to be looking for something to watch. You could have put on a better game. You could have put on the Yankees Red Sox. It would have generated more viewers. Dumb move by the MLB. And they've messed this up time and time again. Memorial Day weekend, just like July 4th. You got to throw baseball games on primetime networks there.
I totally agree. They try to stick to their roots one too many times, and they've shot themselves in the foot because of it time and time again. And I think that baseball needs to understand that the fact that they're just the nation's pastime and it's, they do their thing, they need to kind of get over themselves and understand that in order to attract the crowds they want to, they need to act like they need to be on the bigger scale.
And from 10 years from now, who's a better team, Yankees or Mets?
So personally, I feel that the Mets have a much better farm system. So I'm going to go out and say that the Mets will be better in 10 years. But that's not to say the Yankees will be bad. I just think guys like Francisco Alvarez and Brett Beatty, they really excite me. So in a non-biased answer, I think the Mets will be better.
I don't know who those guys are, but we'll see now.
Get to know them. They're good.
They're good. All right, Matt. Great show today. We'll take this up. We'll mess this up. We'll cut it up. Put some clips out on Instagram, TikTok, the whole shebang. But thank you, Matt, for coming on. It was a pleasure to speak with you.
My pleasure.